So today we're diving into something really powerful and honestly pretty personal. It's a monologue that takes us on a journey from the absolute highest peaks of ambition all the way down to the quiet valley of exhaustion. Think of it as an anatomy of burnout, but seen through the eyes of someone who literally aimed for the sun only to watch their own light just turn to ash.
Wow, what an opening, right? Hear me, ye remnants of the fire. With just those words, our narrator summons this ghost, this past version of himself that was filled with immense power and purpose. This was the Golden Shadow, a figure totally forged in heroic striving. It really sets this grand, tragic stage for the story of a monumental fall from grace.
And this slide, man, it just lays it all out, doesn't it? It's this brutal side-by-side. On the left, you've got the Golden Shadow, dynamic, a jagged silhouette of action, a being who screams a whole yes to life. But then you look to the right at what's reflected in the Soothsayer's glass, and all that energy has just collapsed. The sharp edges have gone smooth, slant, and gray. The gold is literally turning to ash. This isn't just a change, it's a terrifying reversal. He's become the mirror of the very emptiness he was trying to conquer.
And here it is. This is the whole mission statement for our explainer. A brutal kind of self-analysis is about to begin. It's about peeling back the skin of ambition, layer by layer, only to find the Soothsayer's gray truth staring right back at him from the very core.
Okay, so now we get to the first huge revelation, the lie of the rope. And you might want to brace yourself for this one because this is where a foundational belief about what humanity is even for doesn't just get questioned, it gets completely shattered.
So check out this metaphor at the heart of the whole collapse. The narrator, he used to believe that humanity was like a rope, a tense, dangerous bridge stretching from our animal past towards a godlike future, the Übermensch or Overman. But the Soothsayer shows him this devastating truth. That rope, it's not for a dangerous crossing. It's a hammock. It's just a place for comfort, for apathy, for an endless sleep.
And who's in this hammock? Well, they're called the last men, and they are the ultimate embodiment of apathy. I mean, they've totally given up on greatness. They've just dissolved into this faceless when, and all they want are tiny pleasures for the day and tiny pleasures for the night. It's not that they're just stuck, they represent the very end of humanity's drive to move forward.
And this quote, just wow. It's such a chilling illustration of their condition. It's an image of absolute passivity. They have the illusion of life, right? This appearance of dancing. But they're nothing more than ash, just being moved around by an indifferent wind. There's no inner fire. There's no will of their own.
All right, so after looking at all of humanity, the focus now shifts, and it turns inward. The narrator starts the much more painful job of dissecting his own motivations. He calls this part the will to distraction. And let me tell you, what he finds in the mirror is a long, long way from the hero he thought he was.
You know that famous idea, the will to power? This celebrated drive to achieve and overcome? Well, here, it gets completely torn down and reframed as something almost pathetic, a will to distraction. Turns out, it was never about building something great. It was just a frantic, sweaty, desperate effort to avoid looking into an inner darkness.
And this is what makes it so deeply, painfully personal. I mean, can you imagine your entire heroic journey, all that striving, all that ambition, was really just fueled by one single thing: terror. The terror of stopping, the terror of silence, and the absolute gut-wrenching terror of what you might find if you ever had to truly look at yourself.
That is such a devastating realization. The narrator used to think the frantic pace of his life was a song of celebration, a hymn to existence. But now he sees it for what it truly was, a symptom of a sickness. It wasn't a healthy pulse at all, but the manic, racing heartbeat of a delirium.
So let's move on to the next stage of this deconstruction. He takes a well-known philosophical journey of spiritual growth, of climbing up, and he violently flips it on its head. He charts his own path of spiritual decline, and he calls it the metamorphoses in reverse.
So instead of that noble ascent from the burdened camel to the defiant lion to the creative child, this journey just plummets backward. It starts with a cynical paralysis of the stillborn child. Then it descends into the helpless rage of the caged lion, whose defiant holy no is just a scream into an empty room. And finally, it all just collapses into the broken camel, a spirit that no longer asks for great burdens, but instead begs only for the sweet, crushing weight of its own exhaustion.
Let's just take a second here and remember what the original, noble purpose of all this struggle was. The
The goal was self-overcoming, this hope that you could peel away your old skin and emerge renewed, stronger, more authentic. A beautiful dream, right? But the reality? Well, that was something else entirely.
And here's the punchline to the whole project of self-discovery. And what a punchline it is. After peeling back layer after layer of the self, hoping to find some true, authentic core, a horrifying truth is revealed. There is nothing at the center. There's only the instrument you used for the peeling. Nothing but the knife.
So, where do you go from there? Well, this discovery leads us to a cold, hard, almost mathematical conclusion. If the self is just an onion with no core, then what would a purely rational mind make of existence itself? This next section explores that very question through a kind of cold calculus, the wisdom of the zero.
To find a truly unbiased answer, the narrator imagines this perfect cold intelligence, the obsidian owl, an overman of brass, a kind of supercalculator with gears for a heart that can witness all of existence without a single flicker of emotion or bias. So, what would a being like that conclude?
After processing the entire cosmos, every cause, every effect, from the beginning of time to the very end, the machine arrives at one ultimate, devastating question. If all the struggle, all the love, all the pain, all the creation and destruction, if the grand total of everything is just zero, then why must I continue to calculate the sum of zero?
And so the machine delivers its final report, just a list of stark realizations. The horizon is a circle, the first step you take is identical to the last one, the core variable in the whole equation is zero. Therefore, reflection is safer than fire. And the logical endpoint, the greatest gift of all, is simply to cease.
So, after all of that, where does this leave our narrator? You'd probably expect just total, crushing despair. But surprisingly, that's not what happens. The final section reframes this total collapse not as a defeat, but as a strange and quiet kind of liberation, a conscious choice he calls the sovereign Untergang.
And this is really the key takeaway here. A complete flip on what it means to be a hero. The hero isn't the one who endlessly struggles to climb up. In this new view, the true hero is the one who sees the whole game, understands it's futile, and consciously, with full agency, chooses to let go, to finally embrace the self-undergoing and just allow oneself to fall.
And you can see the final great trade right here on this slide. The narrator gives up all the symbols of fiery ambition, the burning morning star, the frenzy of Dionysian wine. And what does he get in return? He gets the quiet poetry of finality, the silent morning dew, the peace of an empty cup, and what he calls, with absolutely no irony, the happiness of the grave. And so, we get his final declaration. He's let go of that old tormented identity. He's no longer the shadow of the overman. He is now, peacefully, the shadow of the end. And in this total acceptance, in this state of being utterly finished, he doesn't find failure. He finds a profound and final kind of healing.
And that's where we end, on this absolutely haunting, chilling line. The transformation is complete. The narrator isn't just listening to the Soothsayer anymore. He has become his perfect, empty reflection. It's a final, provocative thought that really seals this profound journey from fire to exhaustion to ash.